Have you ever looked around and felt like the world was moving on without you? Like your calls were being returned less, your stories were listened to with half an ear, or even worse, like you were invisible? If that sounds familiar, I want you to know something. It's not just you. This happens to more people than you think, and today I want to talk about why it happens and what you can do about it, gently, practically, and with all the care you deserve. Let's start here. Something I've noticed often. People forget about you when they stop hearing from you. I don't mean this in a harsh way, but in today's fast-paced world, it's easy for others, even your own family, to assume that if you're quiet, everything's fine. But the truth is, many older adults pull back, not because they want to, but because they feel they shouldn't bother anyone. This silence can make others forget to check in, and over time the space between calls or visits grows wider. I know it's not fair. You've already done your part for years. But staying silent, even when it's unintentional, can quietly push you further from the center of other people's attention. I've seen this firsthand with one of my favorite patients, Linda, a 73-year-old retired teacher from Ohio. For years, she used to talk to her daughter every other day. Then the calls slowed. A week went by, then two. Linda told me, I didn't want to seem needy, so she waited. But silence was misread as independence, and her daughter assumed she didn't want to be disturbed. It wasn't until Linda sent a photo of her garden with a short note, "Spring's coming, look what's blooming," that her daughter called back, touched and surprised. That one message reopened the door to connection. Another gentleman, Raymond, 76, from Arizona, began a weekly routine of texting one family member every Sunday. Just a warm check-in, no complaints, no guilt. He told me those short messages changed everything. What often helps is setting a small rhythm of reaching out, maybe once a week. Send a simple message, a memory, a photo, or even a joke. Something that says, "I'm here, and I'm thinking of you." No pressure, just presence. People respond to love when they're gently reminded it's still there. You don't have to shout to be heard. Sometimes a whisper is enough when it comes with heart. You deserve to feel seen, and even a tiny spark of connection can light up someone else's day, and yours too. Another thing I often see, and it sneaks in quietly, is how complaining, even when it's justified, can slowly push people away. It's not that your pain or frustration isn't real, of course it is, but when every conversation starts and ends with discomfort, illness, or disappointment, even the kindest listeners begin to pull back. It's human nature. People don't always know how to help, and feeling helpless can make them retreat. Over time, your voice, though honest, can start to feel like a weight, not a window into your world. And that's heartbreaking, because what you really want is to feel heard, not avoided. I remember Charles, 79, from Michigan, smart man, used to work in logistics. Every time his grandkids called, he'd go straight into his health. His back pain, his meds, his sleep issues. One day his grandson missed their weekly call, then another. Charles thought they didn't care, but when I gently asked his daughter, she admitted, "It's just hard to keep the kids on the line when every chat feels like a medical report." That hurt to hear, but Charles took it seriously. He tried something new. He started by asking about their school, their dog, even their favorite snacks. Slowly, his calls stopped being a report and became a real exchange again. His grandkids now look forward to hearing from him. One of the easiest shifts is to begin each conversation with something light, a memory, a small compliment, a question about the other person's life. Of course, you can still talk about what's bothering you, but try to sandwich it between warmth and curiosity. You'll be surprised how quickly people re-engage when they feel joy and connection, alongside concern. Even if you're hurting, your voice carries more than your pain. It carries history, humor, wisdom. Let them hear all of you, not just the ache. You are more than what you've lost. You are still full of presence. Something else I've come to understand deeply over the years: when we live too much in the past, even beautiful memories can quietly become a barrier. It's so easy to slip into stories of how things used to be, especially when today feels unfamiliar or lonely. But for those around you, children, grandchildren, even neighbors, it can start to feel like you're not really present. anymore, like your heart is somewhere else. And when that happens, they might feel left out, even if you don't mean to make them feel that way. Living in memory is comforting, but it shouldn't replace living now. One woman I worked with, Annie, 68 from Pennsylvania, loved talking about her childhood farm. Her stories were rich and warm, but eventually her daughter said, "Mom, I just wish sometimes we talked about us, not just you and Grandma from 1950. That struck a chord. Annie hadn't realized how often she leaned on the past because the present felt too quiet. Another client, Bill, 71 from Nevada, used to tell the same story about meeting his wife at the county fair. His grandson, though he loved it the first few times, eventually rolled his eyes when it came up again. Bill felt embarrassed, but instead of shutting down, he started asking his grandson to share stories too, about school, friends, even silly moments. That changed the rhythm of their chats. One of the simplest ways to reconnect is by asking questions that invite today into the conversation. Instead of beginning with, "Back when I was your age," try something like, "What's the best thing that happened to you this week?" Or "Tell me something funny from today." Show curiosity about their world, not just memories of yours. Your past is precious, but your presence is powerful. When you balance sharing stories with listening to new ones, you remind others, and yourself, that you're still growing, still engaged, still very much here. Here's another truth I've seen too many times. When you spend most of your time alone, people simply forget to include you. Not because they don't care, but because you're out of sight, and eventually out of mind. Isolation in older age can sneak up on you. Maybe it started with a move, a loss, or health issues. At first, the quiet feels manageable. But as the days pass, the silence grows heavier and soon the phone stops ringing. And when that happens, it's easy to believe you don't matter anymore. But that's not the truth. I remember Walter, 76, from Oregon. His wife had passed the year before, and since then he hardly left the house. "No one calls," he told me. But he also admitted he hadn't reached out either. One day he decided to attend a local library's senior book group. Just once, he said. That one meeting turned into weekly gatherings. He didn't even love the books. He just liked the people. Another woman, Grace, 70, from North Carolina, started walking with a neighbor every morning. 10 minutes became 20, then coffee on the porch. Both of them were lonely. Now, neither one is. One of the most helpful habits is finding just one place to show up. A group, a class, a club, even a bench at the same time each week where others walk by. Routine creates visibility. Visibility invites connection. You don't have to talk much, just being seen makes all the difference. You still belong to this world, not behind closed doors, but right here, among people. Even a small step outside is a step back into the circle. You are not meant to disappear. Something else that often goes unnoticed is how falling behind with technology can quietly create distance between you and others. It's not your fault. The pace of change is overwhelming, even for younger folks. But when you don't understand the tools that others use every day, texting, video calls, online photos, it becomes harder for them to include you. Not out of cruelty, but convenience. And over time, that gap becomes a wall. You might feel left out, but really, you've just been locked out of a world no one taught you how to enter. I worked with Maria, 72, from Florida. Her son lived across the country, and her grandkids rarely called. She felt forgotten. Then, during a visit, her daughter-in-law showed her how to send emojis and voice notes. The next week, Maria sent a tiny recording, "Miss you, pumpkin." Her granddaughter played it on repeat. Another gentleman, Earl, 69, from Illinois, joined a beginner's tech class at the local YMCA. He told me, "At first I felt stupid. Then I sent my first photo. My nephew messaged back in seconds." Those tiny digital steps brought them back, into the loop. One of the kindest things you can do for yourself is to learn just one simple tech skill at a time. Maybe how to send a voice message, how to make a video call, or how to use YouTube to follow your hobbies. Ask someone close to show you slowly, or look for community classes. You don't need to be a tech whiz, you just need a small door back in. You don't need to catch up to the whole world. You just need to reach far enough to touch the hands that are already reaching out. You're still part of the story, and the story is still being written. If any part of what I shared today felt familiar to you, I want you to know you're not alone. These changes, these silences, they happen to so many good people, and none of it means you're less important or less loved. Leave a comment and tell me what resonated most, and if you found this helpful, tap subscribe and hit the little bell. There's more to come. You still matter. You're still here, and life still has room for you every single day.